Oh, this a next hit beat?
What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to I Am Alpha. Today I have my homie in. Look, I'm in for a treat.
Hey.
You guys are in for a treat. I believe this guy is one of the best communicators. We met throughout ministry,
Sure.
became friends, and now I probably annoy him when I text him, but you got to deal with me, bro.
Never the sense.
Well, let's start here with I Am Alpha. Can you introduce yourself to everybody, and I'll brag on you from there?
Sure. My name is Stephen Saunders, not Stephen, but Stephen, like it's spelled phonetically.
I mess it up here and there.
Well, but you can get close enough. Steph, I'll take that, because even my mother calls me Steph or Steve. So,
Okay.
So that's good. That's good. I've been here in Houston for about 25 years now. Originally from Kansas City, came to H-Town and grew up on the north side of town.
Yeah.
KF, so I represent Client Force. And,
Yeah.
Went off to college and came back here and got married and had kids, and at the point where these two kids are about to go off to college, so we're really crunk about that.
Yeah.
Just trying to live the rest of life.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
In a godly fashion.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. And the cool thing, I do want to give your sons a major shout out. Those are my little homies, man.
Yeah.
And they're some of the most respectable guys. They make me feel old though, because they're so well mannered. Hey, sir, or hey, Mr. Chris. I'm like, oh man, I'm old when somebody calls me Mr. Chris.
Well, I was feeling that way yesterday at the church. I went to a rehearsal and hung out with doing the choir rehearsal. Philip, the drummer. Yes, sir. Yeah, like, you don't have to really do that. You make me feel old, but I guess I am getting up there, so I'll take it.
Hey, wisdom, man.
Hey.
For me, it's cool for me to brag on you while you're here, and I believe in giving flowers while people are here, right? So you're in education. You just mentioned ministry, unbelievable artist, teaches and guides, and also sings. Then on top of that, your website, you sell music as well.
Sure.
Does a lot, man. So there's a lot I want to cover.
Okay. Well, let's get down to it.
Our subject title, right? It's The Voice of an Unspoken Man. It's been a series that everybody is being glued to, mainly because a lot of time people, especially women, they feel that men don't speak what they really feel. And this is our place. This is going to be our podium where we speak today how we really feel.
I understand.
And part of it, I believe, and I can only speak from self, I can't speak from everybody else, but the way that I'm designed, the reason why I'm quiet at certain moments is because I either went through something or I just, out of ignorance, I don't know any better.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, I'm praying that someone's empowered, encouraged to speak up.
Sure.
As I mentioned earlier, you're one of the best communicators I know.
It's come by trial and error.
Okay.
It really has. I was really fortunate in the sense of the family I've come from.
Okay.
My father had 7 brothers and 3 sisters.
Okay.
And all from the same, parents. And I'm the oldest of that generation. I have probably a good 50 or 60 first cousins on that first side of the family, because on average each family member had 3 or 4 kids.
Okay.
And so, but with me being the firstborn of that generation, I had all 7 uncles to sort of raise me with my father. And I distinctly remember moments in my younger part of my life where they made an impact or an influence on me. You know, the time they spent pouring knowledge into me, and you know, just teaching me, you know, life essentials. And I think that I was fortunate in that sense, because I think God was preparing me for that, because He knew we were going to make that move to Houston. Away from that Kansas family later in my life. And so, but I really know that made a difference in being able to watch them and how they've communicated with their families, and the precedent that was set between, you know, for them and their parents, my grandparents. And so I've tried to take that same principle and apply it to my life. And especially when I was, you know, looking for a spouse, and you know, looking for those same types, because I always say this: conflict is inevitable. I mean, it's going to happen. Expect it to happen. I mean, conflict between not just relationships of, you know, marital relationships, but you know, job. Extended family, but I have conflict within myself. Yeah, man. You know, I look back and I'm like, why did you do, you know, this thing or that thing? You know, so that's going to happen. But how you decide to react to it is what matters. That's real. And so early on in our relationship, particularly our marriage, we just decided, hey, we're going to have our disagreements, but we're going to make sure, you know, we come to a resolve at some point. Don't let it, you know, fester, because it can grow into something nasty, and you never come to a resolve. So
that's true. What do you think, if we were to start from, let's say, the beginning, let's think of grade school, like elementary, middle school era, when you hear communication, you said a couple things, your uncles, your father, they were, you know, key men in your life that maybe did something, said something, or taught you something. Is this something at a young age you remember where it was like, oh crap, that's how you communicate, or that's how you open up? Because one of the things, I think I had like a kind of a QA on YouTube once, and I was like, what do y'all want to know? And one of the questions were asked was, why men don't speak how they really feel. And they asked me specifically, Chris, you always open up emotionally. Like, men don't cry, men don't do this. Why do you do it? How did you learn how to do it? And it began to make me think, again, to bring my father, I know our last series about it, like my father's a minister, and I would see him cry. I never thought crying was a sense of weakness, because it was my dad. And my dad's like, he-man to me. So I'm curious, from what you were brought up with when it comes to communication, was this just a behavior you learned throughout seeing, or can you remember a sequence where somebody kind of put you on game?
That's an interesting question, because I've never really thought about that. Because in particular, my father, he really was not that emotional of a person. You know, he did not show emotion. You know, when his father died, my grandfather, or, you know, certain situations where, you know, I would look to see how he would react. You know, he was stoic. And so it was just something within myself. I always decided, you know, I think when it came full circle of having kids, especially 2 boys. Being African American, there's a certain burden we carry as males, you know, to just really try to be high performing, just to, you know, be average. You know, we have to really push just to be accepted, whereas others of other ethnicities may not have to do as much. And so I think I just determined early on in my life, I'm going to, you know, make an extra effort to learn to communicate. I love that. I do remember one particular, it's the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I haven't read that.
Yeah, but I think it's Dale Carnegie. And
it's a gem, y'all. It's a gem.
That, I have to say, that really did make an impact on me. That early on, I had read that. I read a lot of the self-help books, you know, Robert Kiyosaki, you know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But that one in particular, and it was written, you know, years ago. But it is so,
some of the best,
you know, prevalent in that you can walk into a room and decide how you'll influence people. Yeah, man. And it's so easy to do. But, you know, you have to take it upon yourself. The way you carry yourself, your countenance, and how you approach people, it really matters. And so, I started to take those principles into, you know, and put them into practice, and I realized, wow, I can make an impact on people if I so choose. Now I can so choose to, get up, and I can, again, I'm fortunate to have both parents in my life.
Too.
Never saw any domestic abuse, never, had to deal with those types of situations. But there are others like, and I'm sure my wife, she'll mention it if you ever have her on,
Sure.
she dealt with a lot of traumatic situations, with her and her family dynamic. And so it's hard to, shake those things off. If you're going to school and the first thing we had mentioned earlier, a lot of the kids that I see within education, their parents are fussing at them as soon as they get out of the, get on the way into the school, cussing them out and everything else. It's hard to, have a good outlook on life when you're dealing with that type of thing when you get up. So, but you have to make a choice. Yeah. Either you're going to let that hinder you, and it's hard to make that choice, when you're young. But when you're in those years of, once puberty sets in, you start to have a more consciousness of yourself, more of awareness and aware of your awareness of your surroundings and how you can impact people. That's where it's really important. So that during those years, I did try to press that on Cameron and Jalen. Look, you control the situation. Yeah. You control the dynamic when you walk into a room. And especially with your countenance on your face, because people, that's the first thing they're going to look at. That first impression 100%. Is the most important communication, even though it's non-communication. It's not verbal. I should say non-verbal communication. And so I think that's what it all boils down to.
Do you feel like, have you ever been at a place where you felt like fearful or ashamed to communicate?
Yeah, and particularly, I'll take, for example, in marriage relationships, it's hard to communicate to your wife, and I'm the one that really handles the finances, and I want to make every dream for her come true, no matter what it is. But it's always hard trying to give that no, because you see that face, they'll give, and it's not a no, hard no, it's just not right now, type thing. And I had to learn to really implement that in my relationship. Go ahead and address that conflict. Don't try to sweep it under the rug, and because eventually it's going to fester. Just go ahead and say, no, we can't do that right now. Eventually we may be able to do this thing that you want to do, for our family, or move in this direction. But I think those are the key points, because then if you go ahead and face that type of situation now, early on in a relationship, she'll respect you
100%.
for that, and she'll be like, well, I know he's looking out for the best interest for our family. It's not 100%. Just no, just because he's being difficult. So I would say that, those are the hard ones.
I love that, man. And it's cool because, you know what, I'm going to circle that back around in the back end. So remember when I said I'm bringing this back up, I'm going to bring it back up. 2 Thursdays ago, I seen you connect with the worship team. So we're rebooting the church. It's a lot going on at the time. And I seen how you, this is my first time being there too. So let me put that in there as well. Sure. But I noticed you grabbed all the chairs before they got there. You angled them in a way where they would come. So typically when they sing, they're facing the audience and they're spread out maybe 3 to 4 feet. He's on the left side of them. But this time you had them sitting. So I seen each one come sit. I know you're thinking I'm weird now. He's like, why is Chris really paying attention? But I seen how you angled them in the way that you literally grabbed their attention. And they're like literally, every implementation they made going forward was off of your feedback. When I said that to, or when I'm saying that to you now, when you demand people's attention and you're able to deliver, is that like a God-gift talent, or is that something you learned? Because the way you did that, it wasn't like, here he go again, or making everybody feel uncomfortable. It was like everybody felt comfortable, they sitting down, and you had them so engaged.
That comes with the just planning, actually, exercising your mind, rehearsing, and visualizing how it's going to all play out.
Before you get there?
Before you get there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you have to. And that's why a lot of the times, and I know it's like this for a lot of worship leaders. When they first come into church, some people, they want to greet you and say hi, talk about, no, my mind is you know, it may seem like I'm being rude at the time, but I'm really focusing and trying to get in tune with the Spirit and look at, you know, the different things, the dynamics of, you know, we're just getting back to church.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we're on point. We have this issue going on, and so I need, you know, to have everybody, you know, working in the same vein. And so you really do have to sit there and chart those things out in your head.
I love it. I love it. I think that's a key component that people that master communication all have in common. So we're about to get to the meat to where I want to get to. So I think it's genius for anybody to do this. I'm pretty sure if anybody speaks at any conference or you're in education, whatever you may do, I guarantee you look in the mirror and have that conversation like you're talking to the class, or if you're training a class on the way to the class and you're driving, you're already speaking verbally out loud, because that's just part of, I guess, great communication tools for you to be able to implement. So for those that are struggling with communicating, I dare you to try that. You know, speak or play those roles before you even get there.
You really do, like they say, get in front of a mirror and you're, you know, rehearsing. Or I remember interviews that I've gone on for jobs. I would, you know, sit in front of a mirror and practice, because, you know, at times I may stumble on certain words and get nervous. I'm like, no, I'm gonna get this nervousness out right now. So that it's more of a rehearsed situation. As soon as I get in there, I'm just, you know, spitting it out. And it becomes second nature after a while.
I love it. So, bro, listen to me, Like, get in your car, get in your shower, man. Have the conversation that you need to have verbally out loud, so you can be confident when you do say it. It's been times where people think I'm the most confident person in the room, and you have no idea what the minutes were before I got there. So speak, man. I think that's going to be a key component for those that have been challenged with speaking and implementing the way they really feel mentally and emotionally. So I kind of gave you guys a foundation of how to speak. Now let's talk about what is it called? Go ahead.
Before you go on, but and that connects with the piece of, even when I communicate with my wife. I'll rehearse before, and not rehearse the negative part of it, but rehearse, you know, the best words I'm going to use to really set the tone of our conversation. If it's really a conversation that we really need to have.
That's it.
That I may not necessarily want to have. I'm like, no, I need to have this, so let's go ahead and I know she'll probably, you know, be a little sour, but I mean that applies to every facet of your life.
It comes with it, man. It's I think, okay, I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna go back to where we was at.
Okay.
Because I got to come there at the end. Tell me this, because I know a lot of, I read all your messages. Thank you guys. Men and women, what relationships? Right? This is such a big component. So with you on this show, man, I think it would be like ignorant for me not to bring this up and communicate with you. As we talked about the foundation of a man speaking up, people want to know why we don't speak at times, right? I like to kind of use myself as an example. There are certain things that I've dealt with, whether it's Tina, my wife and I, or my siblings, or just friends, business, where when I don't speak, it doesn't always come from a sense of I'm trying to be difficult. It sometimes comes from a sense of, for me, love, because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. It comes from a sense of not wanting to lead someone to the wrong direction based upon my opinion or what I tell them. Sometimes it comes from a place where I don't know if I'm right or wrong, and I don't want to be wrong. I'm curious to hear your reaction with this next statement I'm going to ask you. Have you ever, what's your response when a man does not speak how he really feels?
He needs to eventually speak how he feels, but I don't think it's necessary that he speak right away, because people process things in different ways. It just depends on the type of personality you have. And for me, I am that type of person where at times I need to sit and process, you know, how I'm feeling. I don't know how to word it. Now, most women, though, they know straight away, you know, this is how I feel, this is what, or when a certain situation happens, she knows, you know, the conversation she wants to have. But no, there are times for us, we need to sit back. Now, I will say, okay, well, I am feeling a certain way about this. I'm not sure how I feel. I'm just letting you know. You know, so that you at least know we'll come back to the conversation. But, you know, allow me that time to process so that I can figure out how I want to say it.
I like that. Do you think, you've had to hear this at one point, men make decisions out of their mentality. Women make decisions out of their emotion. Do you think that's a sense of truth? Or?
There's a certain truth to that.
Okay.
It really is. It really is. I just think that that's the way God has created, the situation. And I honestly, and we've talked about this before, I think it's the dynamic of the way God set it up for when there are times where the man in the relationship, and this is speaking from a husband and wife perspective, not necessarily from someone who's dating, because you can't have the same expectations. But there are times where God has allowed, it's like a thorn that he's allowing that wife to put in your side, just keep you, on edge to push you to where you need to be, because we often, times do need that. Yeah, I do. And I admit I do need that at times, and so that's how we help, keep that balance. And she'll make known, hey, this really needs to be addressed in this situation. And she won't push it. She'll allow the Holy Spirit to go ahead and convict and go ahead and bring me to, hey, okay, let's go ahead and communicate about this particular situation. So but that's hard.
I think it's so cool to hear that from you, because when you look up to, and I've said this to you, so I look up to this guy, man. Him and his wife are just incredible to me.
We're just trying to do it right. We're just trying to do it right.
When I hear you say, like, there's been times where you had to process it, because sometimes me and Tina are different. Right? Like, sometimes I process so fast, and she's like 3 days later, okay, I thought about it. And I'm like, hold on, we were supposed to talk about that 3 days ago. And I think that's the beauty, where you can see that people are made different and react different.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I promise you, it was either yesterday or the day before yesterday. We were talking about you all, and I said, well, Tina she's an engineer. She's automatically going to be more analytical. She needs to process. That's just how her mind is set up, and that that works for her advantage, because in her career. But that's also how she addresses things. Probably socially and emotionally, relationship wise. That's just the way some people are wired different. So you really do have to give them. I think it's really important early on in the relationship, any relationship, determine who has what type of personality. So that then you can determine early on, okay, well, if you're that type of personality and I'm this, then this is your strong point, this is your strong point, and we're going to use those, to bounce off of each other. Because like for us, me and Tiffany, she was just talking about it last night. I'm not sure if Tina mentioned it to you. She said, because I'm the dreamer. She's the dreamer. She has these grand visions. She's very creative. Things that she wants to do, as far as whether it be our family or ministry-wise. Things she wants to do with her children's books and her therapist practice. And I'm like the one that'll sit back and say, okay, let's be pragmatic. I got to be the balance. So determine who's going to be which and that, so that when you come down to it, I bring her back down. Okay, well, you have these dreams, but know that this needs to happen before that happens. And vice versa. There's some things that she's put into place for us, like the house that we had built. I know that was all her, because I wasn't seeing that at the time. But she had the dream. And so eventually she came back and said, baby, this is what I really would like, and I went pragmatically laid it out there and went from there.
That's cool. We had did you take, no, I don't think y'all were there yet, Peace, what's it called? Financial Literacy, Peace University, or Financial University by Dave Ramsey?
No, but I have seen the course.
Right.
I've done some of his earlier courses, though. So
he basically has something in there for those that have heard it or seen it. He has the free spirit and the nerd. And I didn't realize that in a relationship until we took that course. So he used it for financial literacy, where you have the free spirit, spending money, we'll get through it, and then you have the person that's very detailed, and that's how I look at relationships too. It's cool to have two free spirits or two nerds, but for Tina and I, one's the nerd and one's the free spirit. Y'all probably can guess who's the free spirit, but we blend each other out. Even from a standpoint, I tell people and I brag and give her all the kudos in the world for my brand. I was the guy carrying a clipboard and trying to keep up with 300 members on a clipboard with sheets of paper all in it. And the Excel sheet in her was like, dude, you can't do this no more. Give me everything. I wake up the next morning, it's just like, Yeah, so I wouldn't have grown if it wasn't for her. The brand wouldn't be where it's at today. So I think we need each other. I know we need each other. What's your outtake when it comes to like men specifically saying that women or whoever they're talking to don't listen when they speak? Have you ever been in that position, I guess?
I think that's gone both ways. There have been times where I think I know what she's about to say.
Yeah.
And I don't really actually listen, and vice versa. You really do. It's hard trying, especially when we've been together 20 years now, and we can almost finish each other's sentences. But there are times where I don't, know what she's about to say, and so I have to really sit on my hands and let her speak all the way out, and then repeat back to her what I think she said, because perception matters. You know how it came across, and along with the body language that I may see, or the tonality of intonation of her voice. And I'm like, well, are you feeling such way? Because no, I'm just expressing. And I'm like, okay, well, I understand. And so I think that's very important. You got to take time to sometimes repeat back to them what they're saying, and making sure that there's no.
I can do better at that.
It's hard.
I can do better because I can recall even last night. I remember, I forgot what we were talking about. I think we had just gotten to bed. When I want to go to sleep, I put on American Gangster because it's like a 3-hour movie and I'm going to fall asleep on it. But I remember her saying something about, I think she was talking about the competition we got coming up, the Beast Mode Games. And she said something, I heard her. I said, yeah. And she was like, did you hear me?
Yeah.
And I think if I would have repeated, instead of saying, yeah, if I were to repeat it, you know what? I think that is a good idea. I need to go ahead and implement. I was agreeing with her in my head.
Yeah.
I just said, yeah. But I think the confirmation of repeating that back. So I guess that's another gem, guys. We got to, when you hear, it's not just about, like you said, your body language plays a big role of communicating, also verbally repeating. So just think about it. If you're in a classroom and you're a teacher and you said, hey, 1 + 1 is 2, if the classroom responds and say, yes, Mr. Green, 1 + 1 is 2, you can move on to the next math problem. But sometimes when a kid just nods their head,
you don't know what's going on. Yeah, they could be off in la la land thinking about recess.
Yeah. So I'm taking that one. I'm taking that for me, y'all. I got to do a better job at, and that's just not my relationship, right? That's me as a leader and my business and everything else that I'm a part of, is to make sure I verbally communicate where the person I'm talking to understand clearly that I am listening.
Yes. And that goes for your kids too, having them repeat back to you, just to make sure they have that understanding. And it's just funny to see that dynamic play out. I mean, like you said, just at school, that you see it played out in the kids' minds. You think they're listening, when you tell them repeat back.
Yeah.
That's why they have certain exercises. I'm not sure if you've been in classrooms lately where they have certain repetitive things that they have the kids say back to the teachers to, develop.
Never noticed.
It makes a difference.
Wow.
Makes a difference.
I think that's so cool to hear, man. It's funny when we were talking about having that conversation before you get to that presentation. On my way here, I had a conversation before I get to meet with him. And ex-athlete, all right, played basketball, and a lot of things that people love that I bring to the table in everything that I'm a part of, a lot of it came because of sports. Yeah. When I say the term sacrifice, consistency, being on time, work ethic, having integrity, all those things I learned through coaches and just going through life as an athlete.
Sure.
So I thought about this whole scenario on the way here. And I'm going to ask you this, and I'm asking this another question for me. As a athlete, I remember my coach telling me this, and I'm hoping, bro, I hope that you play sports. And I know you heard this if you play any type of sport. Coach, stop getting on me. Coach, why you always on me? And the coach says, if I wasn't on you, that's when it's a problem.
That's right.
But when I'm on you, that means I see something in you, or I want something better for you. And I've been developed that way since 6, ever since I got into sports, right, bro? Yeah. And then once I got older and I got into leadership roles, I now do the same thing. So with my trainers, if I have a trainer and I'm like, hey, Jason, I need you to be on time. And Jason's never on time, and I keep telling him to be on time. When I get to a point where I'm like, I'm not going to talk to him no more about being on time, I'm looking for to take some hours away or a replacement.
Exactly.
Right?
That's when you should be concerned.
That's when you're concerned, right? So
true.
here goes the communication tool I wanted to ask you, or I wanted to mention, because I noticed I do it. I get to a point, and I'm using Tina because of my wife, but that can be my dad, that can be Milton, my brother, it can be anybody.
Sure.
If I'm trying to challenge or encourage or grow, 'cause that's just the way I'm built, if I keep repeating it over and over and over, and you're not listening, I do what I'm taught or the way I've been raised. I shut up. And then your brain, for me, it start kind of like, well, what do you need to do this? Or is this the way it need to happen? So when you think relationship-wise, for someone like me or an athlete or someone that's been programmed that way, how or what do you recommend? Is that something I need to kind of like, that's not good skill tactics that I'm developing, I need to kind of let go of? Because I will mute. And I will not deal with the situation no more because I'm already kind of numb to it and I want to do something more creative or better.
Well, from the facet of a business point, you have to be that way because, I mean, it's business.
Yeah.
And, you can't have a situation where you have, someone that's not really putting in that effort because it affects the bottom line, and that's what we're all there. And in the end, yes, you are trying to affect people's lives and make them better physically and equip them with the tools to be successful physically. But the bottom line is you're there to run a business. So I can understand that. I wouldn't lose that at all. But you know what? I'm like that as well too, especially with my family because Tiffany, she and I like to use an example. She says I'm very hard on her, and I'm hard on the boys. That's because that same principle. I expect more because I see more in you all.
That's it.
And then two, because I'm the priest of the household, so I'm responsible. My standards for you all are much higher than what everybody else.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, so I can't hold them to the same standard. And that's why I'm not going to get on them the way I do you all, because I see so much more in you, and God has so much more purpose for us as a family. So, I mean, hey, I definitely see that same quality being crucial. So
yeah,
it
hit me on the way here. It hit me. I was like, because Tina get on me sometimes. She's like, you just shut up. You just stop. And I'm like, I kind of want to tell her that. I guess I'm using this platform to tell her that if she watches or listens, right? It's not from a standpoint of like, I'm mean. It's just I'm being repetitive on my action. And the way that I do everything is the way I do most things. So I was curious to hear your response, like, man, maybe with relationship or maybe with family, maybe that's something I need to kind of not do, but after kind of seeing your response is kind of.
Now with my immediate, with my core, my wife and my kids, I can't let up in that respect. Now, extended family, I definitely put it out there, but you can only do so much for extended family.
Yeah. I think if the bro is listening or if the sis is listening, just use me as an avatar. Like, I'm really literally, for the person that say men don't speak how they emotionally feel or mentally feel, maybe ask that question, right? Because I learned through leadership is the way I operate is not from the bottom, it's typically from the top. So like if something doesn't happen right at the gym or boot camp, I'm like, okay, how do I get better? Where did I drop the ball?
Because everything rises and falls.
Exactly, right? So fellas, if you're a woman, or ladies, if you're hubby or whoever, if there's a lack of communication, maybe ask the question, hey, is it something I'm doing?
Sure.
I noticed you've been really quiet lately. What is something that I can do to, is it something I missed? Is it something that I didn't hear?
Yeah.
And I think when you talking to the guy that is not outspoken, it may be because they've already spoken it.
That could be the case.
Curious. I think that's a good one. I hope, with that being said, before I move forward, I think some people are quiet in nature, and some people talk a lot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like to open up another door when you talk about body language and communicating. Because it's one thing, I'm not going to get up in the camera and do this. I had thought about doing this. But it's one thing saying, I love you, and you look like this. Man, I love you.
Yeah.
Versus, man, I love you. So you said this, you mentioned it already a couple times. Do you notice your body language when you communicate?
Oh, yeah.
For different situations? Is it on purpose, or is it just natural, or?
It's natural for the most part, but I do have to remind myself, like, whenever I'm thinking, I tend to look off. And I've noticed, at times when I was younger, and I still do it, I try to focus on not doing it when I'm communicating with someone. I'll notice they'll be looking off like, what is he looking at? And I'm like, oh, my attention needs to be here. And it's just how my brain works. I look up and to the left. Typically when you look at, you're trying to think and, use that analytical side. And so body language, that definitely, that hits home.
Yeah.
Because you can take a situation and escalate it, or you can de-escalate, and that goes for how I'm always on my kids on their body language and how they talk to people in public and dealing with people in authority and police officers. You can put them at ease. Yeah. You really can, because you may come across a situation where that other person doesn't feel at ease, and you need to be able to have those skills to de-escalate that situation so you can come out alive.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah. That's 100% real. I think when you said that, man, I was imagining sequences that I've been through, and I think this would obviously be a series at I Am Alpha talking about being at color and dealing with the law. Sure. And first and foremost, you have some people that do abuse the authority of being in law, but then you have some people that are freaking amazing at what they do. Doing their job. But I remember times where I could have controlled the situation a little bit better, and I already had the tempo. I mean, I already had the mindset that, oh, I'm about to get a ticket. Oh, he gonna ask me to get out the car. So as soon as he came up, I'd never forget this. I remember I had just bought a car, and it was like a little speed trap off 1960. It's like you coming off the hill. I have a very fast car, so I'm coming down. There's no way you're going 35. I'm going 60. He pulls me over. I'm mad. I'm like, it's a setup. He gets there. I think me and Tina had just started talking, bro. And as soon as he comes, I remember, I turned up the music. It was Ross. It's me. Whatever the lyrics are, right? And Tina's like, officer, as soon as he got there, turn the music down. Don't you got a problem? I was like I'm giving him an attitude because I think I know what's about to happen. But what happened if I would have just had the music down, had my hands on the steering wheel? I already know I'm black. Like, I already know what can happen. So, hey, officer, I'm sorry. Can I help you with something? That doesn't mean that you're some type of, I'm going to say it the way I feel it. No, I'm not going to say it. That don't mean you're not masculine. That doesn't mean that you're weak by being polite and communicating. So he could have easily grabbed me by my wrist and slung me out the car. Yeah. But by grace, it didn't happen that way. But I could have controlled it by saying, hey, sir.
Yeah, because automatic, I think, 25 miles over the speed limit, that's automatic arrest.
100%. So when you said that, it just brought me back to a place. So, fellas, ladies, communicating with your body language is like the most important key. When I speak to like my teams in close settings, especially with my business, I make them put their cell phones upside down. Like, hey guys, about to start the meeting. Everybody, flip your phone. Yeah. If you need notes, here's a sheet of paper. And actually, when I tell I was just telling one of the trainers that I'm developing leadership, Jared, I think you met Jared at church. Yeah. I said, whenever I host a meeting, I don't actually pass out the bullet points of the meeting at the end because it gives them an excuse to be disruptive. Right. So they're already reading to what's next. Yeah. I want people's attention. So if I don't have that much time to spend, like, I can't be wasting it. Yeah. So again, that's a sense of communication. And with our body language, I really wanted to open up with you, and I'm glad you did. Control it. If your arms are crossed like this, a lot of people may not know this, but you're basically telling them you're not accepting. Yeah. Nope. Right.
As a matter of fact, earlier during this interview, I had done like this.
You caught yourself?
Yeah, I said, no, let me go ahead and relax because we don't want that. That's setting up that situation. But
and I don't know. It had to be Shanna, my sister. I don't know if she taught me a lot of the body movements or she gave me a book or something, but just different gestures that we do. It's a sense of communication. And for the voice of the unspoken man, that's one thing we all can get better at because it doesn't verbally have to be said sometimes with your mouth. Yeah. It can be physically done with your frame. So if I was to give you an example, intimacy with my wife. I should not have to, or I'm not gonna say me. I'm gonna use somebody else. If a man wants to have intimacy with his wife, he may not say, "Hey, wife, let's have intimacy" by his own verbiage, right?
Yeah, well,
he may grab her by the waist, lay next to her.
Nonverbal communication, yeah.
So just to be real, how many times have y'all can even comment in the comment section, how many times have you had intimacy time with your spouse because of nonverbal, but
it makes a difference.
Physical communication versus verbally communicating versus not, right? So again, that's the voice.
And it really is true how they say that's really foreplay that starts in the morning that day. You know, because she is thinking back, well, how was he, you know, the conversations or the pleasantries that you have, you know, in conversation in the morning. Hey, baby, how you doing?
Yeah.
You know, it really, that all is included in that, you know, you wanting to get to the end result.
Yeah, that's just being real.
Yeah.
That's just being real.
Without getting too graphic.
Yeah. Hey, you know, if you got to get, no, I'm just kidding. I think Tiffany, she's the one. Shout out to my girl Tiff. I don't think I gave her a shout out yet.
Crazy.
Shout out to my girl Tiff. Tiff, I want you on this show. She's opening up in a new career path. She's been in, but now she's doing more ownership and
licensed professional therapist.
Yeah.
And opening a practice, and we're looking.
Oh, it's gonna be incredible. 100%. It's gonna be incredible. So
definitely.
when y'all see her, know it's going down.
Oh yeah.
But so as we kind of get to the fourth quarter of this, what's your takeaway as you mentioned this with you being a father, how you're grooming and directing and trying to pass as much wisdom as possible down to your sons. When you talk about communication, have you ever had to stop them when they wasn't communicating correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's an ongoing because as kids, especially around 12 or 13, and then moving in, eventually they come out of the phase, but they're going to have that sense of defiance where they're testing the boundaries.
I'm not ready.
Oh yeah, it's coming. Trust and believe. Trust and believe. And so, I mean, I really had, and it brought me to a sense of humbleness because it made me reflect back to how, you know, I did my father and my mother. I mean, I wasn't a bad kid, but, you know, I had my moments where I really wanted to test. And I can understand why my father he'd be quick to stomp that out. You know, that's not how it's about to go down. Because then if they feel as if they can get away with that, then they push the boundary. And so that's a constant conversation. I think my boys are at the point where I really don't have to have that anymore because, you know, they're 18 and 19, and I think they figured out. Matter of fact, I've seen them in situations where they've corrected their cousins, younger cousins. Like, hey, don't talk to your mama like that. You know, I hear them saying that to them.
That's fulfilling.
And so, but early on, that whole countenance thing really was the one thing I focused on, especially for my oldest one, because, you know, he may say yes sir, he'd be like, yes, sir. You know, that stuff made me want to jump across the room right there. Because I know where it's going. I know what it leads to. And so and he's come a long way with it. But some kids just have that personality. And because my youngest one, all you got to do is look at him. Really? And, you know, the tears would start to fall when he was younger. You know, so like that look my mom and dad used to give me, because my dad was an organist, my mother was a praise and worship leader. Okay. All they had to do was look at me from the choir stand all the way. I'd be right in the back with my friends playing and passing candy, and they'd look. You already knew. All of a sudden I'd be quiet, and my friends be like, "Man, what's wrong?" I was don't know, bro. I'm listening to the word. I'm trying to get some word here, you know. But that's good. And that was some serious nonverbal communication they used to put on us back in the day. Yeah. But that really matters though, especially for our young black kids, because again, they can go into a situation with a person of authority and really de-escalate it for them before it even gets to that point. Put them at ease before, especially like walking, because we moved into town, we're in the Heights area, and seeing two black kids, you know, walking down the street, because a lot of times they'll take our dog to go walking, or they'll go running themselves just to get a little workout in. And there been a couple of times where people sort of be looking at them. I tell them, go in and say hi to them. Yeah. Like, take the initiative, speak. And before I knew it, you know, they know everybody on the block. Really? You know, they go play basketball with a lot of the neighbors. There's a court not too far from here, so that communication, take the initiative. Look at your surroundings. When you come into a situation, go ahead and set the precedence.
I love that. I love hearing it, man. It's the thing I'm thinking of. I love how you say we can control a lot of our narrative with the way that we communicate. And as you're saying that, I'm gonna challenge everybody that's listening and watching this. Where are you honored at a place where you communicate? You know, like I'm pretty sure somebody in what position you're in, you really master the way you communicate there. But do you bring that same intensity and the same verbiage, the same body language to the places where people say you're not speaking up at? So for the voice of the unspoken man, if you are the boss, or maybe your co-workers and yourself, y'all communicate very well, but you don't bring that at home to your siblings or to your spouse or to your friends, I think that's where we can man up and communicate. I think we should be, creatures of habitat. The way you do one thing is the way that you do most. So that's the challenge for you guys, man. I know we can control a lot of our narrative by the way that we communicate verbally and with our body language. Yeah, I think we can get better.
And going back to what we bring home as men, it's so important. We are the ones that should be setting the tone in the house, and setting a vision. Because I have a whiteboard where, I write out, hey, these are the things we're doing this month as a family. We're trying to get achieved economically, together, things we should be doing intellectually as far as sharpening our minds. You should always be doing something, to push the envelope to, learn. We should always be in a situation of learning. We never, even at 80, 90 years old, you should still be learning something.
100%.
And so I think that's very important, though, too, writing that vision out for your family.
Yeah, I love it.
So that they see it.
I love it.
Because that's the word, write the vision, make it plain.
I love it. So many ways I can go. All right.
Yeah, that's what I said. You can go so many directions with that. You really could.
Let's do this. Remember I told you I was going to bring something up later.
Sure.
This is that moment.
Okay.
And we're getting ready, guys. I hope you're enjoying the conversation. And if you haven't already, give us a thumb up, comment down below. Let us know what you think. Give my homie some love, man. But I'm going to ask you this question. And then obviously, if you have anything you want to ask me, I would love to open up with anything, but no pressure. This scene in Baby Boy. So my dad, right? He knows my dad well. And I try to imitate his voice all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So every once in a while, what did he say the other day, man, at church? He said something off the chain. He said something about...
your dad's always saying something funny. You cracking up.
Was it Snoop? He's always talking about the Snoop song, Living My Best Life. But he said something the other day, and it was some truth to it. No, it was a movie. And he said his favorite part of the movie... Golly, I cannot remember the scene. I can't remember the scene.
Yeah, we were there that Sunday. I can't remember what it was, too.
He said something to the point, it was a scene in the movie. It was an Ice Cube movie. It's coming back to me. It was an Ice Cube movie, and Cube said something, and it was like every day you get up. I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what I want to ask.
I know what you're
talking
about.
So my moment as me being my dad is a movie in this movie called Baby Boy. Right, Jody, my boy Jody, and
I hate you, Jody.
It's a scene in there, and I don't agree with what he did. But there is a sense of truth from Chris in what he said. So I'm not saying this is the way. I'm just saying it's a sense of truth from what he said.
Sure.
So Jody, Baby Boy, he got all the women in Cali. He's messing with them all. He's getting different women pregnant. And he messed up with Yvette, which was his main chick.
Main girl.
Right? And she's upset. Why didn't you tell me, Jody? And he said something. And I was like, dang, that was kind of...
I don't know what the line is then.
He said, I lie to you because I care about you. If I didn't care about you, I would lie to you like I lied to the other, HOs. So, not saying I agree with what he did, but it had a sense of, not conviction. I guess it could be conviction. I was like, man, it's been times where I didn't want to verbally communicate because I care about their feelings. And if I didn't care about your feelings, I'd just be raw and speak the way I feel. For the unspoken man, or for the voice of the unspoken man, to a guy that communicates very well, what would you recommend after hearing something like that? Obviously, we do love, but we do need to tell the way that we feel. What would you say?
That's okay. So just earlier today, I heard someone say that, and I agree with this, because that used to be on my approach at first, but then I realized you're setting yourself up for something that's going to continue to fester, because it may be something early on in the relationship that you don't like that she's doing, and you're not being honest about it. Whether it be, it can be anything. And so if you don't express it earlier on, and then all of a sudden 20 years later you say, I never did like that you do such and such. Well, why didn't you tell me back then and just be a man about the situation? And she probably not gonna like what you said, but eventually she's gonna respect that you're being honest.
100%.
And that's what mattered. Because I admit I was like, I had a tendency to do that too, because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. I just wanted it to be all 100%. Peaches and cream, but it can't be.
Not in leadership.
It can be.
And if you're going to be the head of your household, how can you lead and do that?
Yeah.
You said something. That's why I said it earlier, and I didn't want to bring it in just yet. I wanted to wait towards the end. You said that you want to give everything to Tiff. Everything she wants, you want to make that happen. Yeah. And sometimes not right now is the way that you get it there.
Exactly.
But sometimes it's difficult to tell somebody, not right now. My wife always wants a car. Like every year, y'all, she wants a different car. So right now, I'm trying to embed in her from a standpoint, like, you're paying your car off. Let's live. You got a nice car. Let's live off of saving in abundance. And then when you get ready, but sometimes telling her that, knowing how bad she wants this next car is difficult. Yeah. And sometimes it might come off where she like, oh, he hating. He just got a new car, or, you know.
And that's a hard situation, because they're watching everything else you're doing. They're like, well, he's spending on such and such, and he's spending it, because I've dealt with that before too. And it would, I welcome, okay, you called me out on that. That's good. Okay, so you're right. I probably shouldn't spend on such and such. So I'm gonna cut back on that too. So that's when it goes back to communication, because they're gonna communicate it too. They're gonna let you know, oh, well, you doing such. Why can't I?
Yeah.
So
So fellas, ladies, and I'm not just talking to fellas, because I've been getting a lot of ladies, but fellas, I'm talking to you directly, especially for those that are leading the household. We can't have the Jody approach, man. I know everybody didn't watch it. Jody, my Jody. But, man, you do have to speak truth to gain the abundance, the growth that you want. As he said earlier, man, you could, if Tiff wanted something, not right now, actually may have gave Tiff the opportunity or the experience later. But if you keep not speaking or communicating, that opportunity would never come to pass if you not speak the way that we need to speak. So I'm gonna encourage you, man, to man up and speak your voice. But at the same time, we try to also tell everyone why we don't speak at times. Some of us process things slower or faster. Some of us may have said it or act upon it numerous amount of times. They tired of speaking on it. I mean, there's so many ways or so many reasons why people don't speak or speak. But I think they were fed today a little bit, man.
Well, hopefully so.
I think so.
All I can do is give my life experiences and go from there.
Well, I've always said, and I will continue to say, man, I admire the way that you walk, man. It's so cool to see. So my neighborhood, besides my dad, like, I didn't see nobody else. Yeah. So for me, it's just like, you know how you can tell your kids the same thing over and over, and then somebody else tell your kid one time, oh man, Dad, he told me to go left and I get an open layup. It's like, dude, I've been telling you all your life, right? So for me, part of that is a reality. I've had my mother and father, so a lot of things were addressed, but sometimes because it's your mother and father, you don't implement or you don't listen as you could. So my secondary guy, I didn't really have.
Sure.
Right? So people always ask me business-wise, man, how did you come up with Mean Green? How did you come up? Like, I made it up. It wasn't, I didn't want to be in the oil field. I didn't want to be a school teacher. Didn't make it as an athlete. So I kind of made something up. But the thing that I'm pouring out to you guys today is, look at the concept of what you don't have and what you can have. But all of this wouldn't have never taken place if you don't go outside your box and find someone that do it the right way. That's true. As our will is in, with everything that I was just saying from a standpoint of, I do see my dad and I do have my dad. It's so encouraging to see someone do it the right way outside my dad.
A different perspective.
Right, because again, my dad shows me, but sometimes when somebody else do it, I'm pretty sure I can say, oh man, Dad, man, they've been together for 20 years, so cool. The way he like, me and your mama together for 30. You know, it's just okay, I get it, Dad, but it's cool to see someone else do it. So I admire that. I admire how well-mannered your kids are, how Tiff is just always excited and always honors you as her husband, man. I think that is so cool, and that's where I want to be when Tina and I are married for 20 years.
And now I'll say this as my last piece, that I appreciate that she has done to this day. And mind you, she's very close with her mother, her sisters, because it was just them, because her father really wasn't in the picture. And so, typically in situations like that, everything in your relationship, gets shared. Not once has she ever, even when we may be having a disagreement, as soon as we hit that door to go visit, everything is good. Now, it might go back to a little bit of coldness after we leave from there, but
that's marriage. It should be.
It should be.
It should be.
And no matter what, now it'd be different if it was, some physical violence going on in the situation. But no, this is just disagreements. Disagreement on how we're gonna raise the kids, or because it's gonna happen. I mean, it is even now to the point where even though our kids are leaving now, we now trying to go through that phase of trying to go back to it just being us. Yeah. And a lot of couples, honestly, after the kids leave,
it's hard.
Yeah, it's
they
hard.
Never make it back.
End up divorcing. But
that's true. I've seen that stat. Let me ask you this. This is kind of cool since you brought up towards the end. I can see men getting frustrated with and it can be vice versa, but me talking as a man and my peers, I can see how a man gets frustrated when they're in public, that the wife, the spouse, everybody act like it's good, and then when you go back, it's like, hey, we were just cool at the restaurant. Can we communicate the way you were communicating with me at the restaurant? But it shuts down. With that being part of marriage, what could we address right now as people are listening and watching from a standpoint of communication? To give you an example, I'm using Tina, guys. We good. I'm just using Tina. If Tina we went to Papa Do's, what was that, last Sunday? We went to Papa Do's, we all communicating, everybody's having a good time, we laughing, and then we get in the car, and then we go mute. As a man, what's the best thing to do right then and there?
I mean, that's a hard situation. It really is. I mean, there's no cookie cutter approach. I mean, you just have to be creative and, having conversation, starting conversation. And then after I'll tell you what, this does work for me. And she'll do the same if it's me, shutting her out. She'll try to initiate some conversation. If she sees it's not going, she'll go ahead and ask. I said, baby, so is there something going on here? I mean, because I need to know. It's, really not fair for me to get shut out and not really know what's going on. And typically that's when it comes out, and we'll have this conversation from there. And then I'll just make sure, again, going back to those nonverbal communication skills of making sure I'm not escalating with my voice and my body language is, not, getting to the point where I'm seeming like I'm irritated. I just let her communicate, and we go from there and dialogue back and forth on, talk it out. But yeah, that's.
I know I've done it. Yeah. It's funny because, not that anybody's trying to be fake, but I love the approach in marriage where, man, like we just, stuff happened, man, I didn't flush the toilet. I'm sorry. I left it for you, right? Whatever may have happened. And you get into it about it, and then you go out, you notice that, y'all still loving people. You still communicating, you talking to each other in front of everybody. Maybe if that's the sense and you do get back to wherever you were at, somebody has to take the initiative to say, hey. Are you irritated?
Yeah. And I'm sure that's what Tiffany, she's going to come when you do finally speak with. That's one thing that we have, I think, really done well with. Or if I know that she was mad at me about something, I'll just go over, just non-verbally, just grab her by the hand and just start talking, baby. Okay, I know I such and such. And, she'll just melt. Right there.
Really?
And vice versa. It's been times, baby, I know
game.
Such and such.
You give me y'all game.
Yeah, so it goes, that goes both ways.
I suck at it.
Yeah, it's hard.
I suck at it.
It's hard. Because I'm like, I know I'm right in this situation.
Yeah.
I ain't, matter of fact, I ain't gonna try to get her booty tonight. I'm just gonna go to sleep and be done with it.
Yeah.
No, hey.
I think that's one of those things that it's funny to laugh about it, but when you're in the situation, obviously it's not funny. But it's entertaining to
know that other people are dealing with it, for one.
Because I can be petty. I can be petty, man. Yeah. It can be like, oh, you don't want to talk to me in front of? I mean, you want to talk in front of everybody? Cool. Well, I'm not gonna talk. Vice versa or whatever. And I think it's funny when you conquered the situation, but the seriousness about the situation, a lot can detour because of non-communication. Yeah. And, my hope today is that we inspire somebody to communicate, even when you feel like you're right.
Because, again, conflict is inevitable. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I don't know anybody who can go the rest of their life without some type of conflict happening. How you address it all matters. It boils down to you.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. I think it's well said, well presented. To get your wife on, I don't know if it needs to be Tiff and then bring both of y'all on.
We can do that. Hey, or you get her view on everything, and then have another podcast with the both of us.
I have to.
That's cool.
One of the questions that we had in the comment section, I don't know if I want to, because everything that we talk about on I Am Alpha, I like to use me as an example. You see, I always use Tina and I. But this one is like, I don't know if I want to use Tina and I, but one of the most common questions that I get is sex. Yeah. And it's like, I can't use other people for sex examples. So I got to put me and Tina on display. Yeah. But, that's one of the things that we mentioned earlier, kind of about turning the oven on, letting it bake if you want to eat, whatever later. And I think there's so many miscommunication cues when it comes to communication with sex specifically. Because, again, it can be, if you read the book, one of the 5 love languages that
I was going to mention that earlier.
Right? Yeah. So if that's one of the things that fills your tank up, and communication is the reason why that's not being filled up, maybe that's the missing component. It's not the intimacy is missing, it's the communication to get to the intimacy.
Exactly.
Right? So I guess that's just going to have to be.
Oh, yeah. She'll have no problems with that conversation.
Tip, no filter.
No filter at all.
No filter at all. No, man, it's been a pleasure. I'm trying to think of if I covered everything that had to do with this subject. Unless you can think of anything.
No, I'm good. I enjoyed the opportunity to come on and just try to, like I said, give some life experiences that hopefully help somebody else. And
100%.
We're still 20 years young, and it's strange just because just to hear people make it past 10 years is almost amazing, nowadays. But hey, we're just pressing through like everybody else.
Yeah, man.
Trying to figure this thing out.
Well, I felt amazing when you said the word crunk earlier, because I was like, I know what that means, right? I understand how to use that verbiage. So when some people they make fun of me at the gym, and I try to make IG posts, and I'd be like, hey, can I use lit here? And they'd be like, no, Chris, just stop. So when you speak my language, I get a little excited. Yeah. But you know what, man?
That's what Cameron and Taylor, they be making fun of us. Yeah. Because Tiffany, she'll use, what's the one they like to use now?
Not lit?
Not lit. It's something else. It's something I've been hearing them say a lot recently, and so she'll try to use it in contests, and they're like, "Mom, just give it up." Yeah,
I remember being their age and doing it to, my parents. So it's funny to get it back in return. But it's I think the thing I want to leave with everybody with is, man, life is amazing. Life is great. It's fulfilling. Do we take punches here and there? Yes. Yeah. One of my favorite movies by Sylvester Stallone, it was, I think, Rocky V. I know it's 97 of them, but one of the movies, he had a quote that I like to quote, and he said, he's talking to his son in the dialogue. He said, son, life is not meant to be how hard you can hit. It's meant to be how hard can you get hit and still get up, still persevere. Right. That's how true success is developed. So I'm not saying when you communicate, guys, that everything's going to be easy and it's going to flow. But what I will say, not communicating will not get you any further. But finding ways to communicate, finding people's patterns of why they might not be communicating, how you can bring that up to communicate. So please don't think the person that's not speaking doesn't want to speak, because typically the person that is the quietest in the room has a lot to say. But that's my 2 cents.
That's good.
You got anything?
That's good, man. That's it. I enjoyed it, man.
We out of here, man. If you haven't already, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you for your support. Y'all take care.